Rabinal is a Maya Achí community in Guatemala, home of Jesus Tecu, survivor of the Río Negro massacres.
Se escuchaban las bombas.
At work, he remembers a painful past.
Cuando pasaba en helicóptero, como tumbaba dentro de las montañas.
Just a few blocks from his office, those memories have names and dates. In the cemetery. In this nearly 200 feet long grave lie the remains of 70 women and more than 100 children massacred in Río Negro in 1982. Tecu was 8 years old when he witnessed the killings. A decade later, anthropologists began to exhume the bodies of Río Negro and other massacres. Victoria Sanford and Kathy Hill are among them.
That exhumation laid the groundwork for that case, which was a landmark case. That's the first prosecution.
I had fully intended to do this volunteer work and then go home to my job, and I absolutely never could.
In the early 80s, the government forced out Maya Achí communities living near the river Río Negro to continue construction of the Chixoy hydroelectric dam. The army and the government's local militia, the civil defense patrols, began killing the villagers.
Capturaban ilegalmente a los hombres, los torturaban de armamentos para matar y para violar y exterminar a los pueblos, que encontraban en sus casas, encontraban sus parcelas.
In the early 1980s, to be an indigenous Guatemalan was to be seen as being a guerrilla.
The story was that these were battles, guerrillas versus soldiers. And when you open these graves and you find infants, children, it was very, very life-changing experience for me.
Soldiers killed Tecu's parents and most of the men in the village. Only women and children remain. One day, soldiers showed up at Tecu's home.
Con una patada botó la puerta de la casa.
He drew these images of what he witnessed, and they are part of his book, Memoir of the Río Negro Massacres.
Y las mujeres gritaban, lloraban, llevaban a las mujeres al monte para violar.
Tecu protected his 2-year-old brother Jaime until patrolman Pedro González snatched him.
La misma forma de cómo mataron a los otros niños. Llegó y lo colgó en el cuello de mi hermano. Veía que mi hermano pataleaban, lo somató en las piedras que habían ahí.
After killing the women and children, including Tecu's 3 brothers, a sister, and her 2 children, the soldiers threw the bodies into a clandestine mass grave and covered them with stones. González then took him as a slave.
Y empecé como a sacar sangre.
2 years later, an older sister rescued him. González received the death penalty in 1999, but later the court reduced his sentence to 30 years in prison.
Bravely went to court, and he identified the person who had killed his sibling, his mother, and enslaved him.
These monuments at Rabinal Cemetery are a reminder of many other massacres. Los Encuentros, at least 79 killed. Agua Fría, 92 people burned alive.
Solo encontraron tal vez como 10 libras de cenizas, de huesos.
According to a United Nations Commission, members of the Guatemalan Army and civil patrols killed more than 5,000 indigenous Maya. Before killing the women, they raped them, even the pregnant ones and the little girls.
Up to 20 different ethno-linguistic groups suffered the same types of systematic sexual violence. We know that that's not just something that happened casually, it's something that was planned and executed by the army.
Most of the massacres occurred between 1982 and 83 under the dictatorship of Efraín Ríos Montt.
He was behind massive numbers of individuals being disappeared, illegally detained, tortured, and killed.
A court found Montt guilty of genocide and sentenced him to 80 years in prison, but days later annulled the sentence. He died of a heart attack in April 2018. The coup never recovered his family's remains, and even now, the sound of the bombs and the crying of the raped girls torments him.
Masacres fueron el ejército de...
But something stronger beats in his heart, the voice of his people claiming respect for human rights and social justice.